New Unison leader says labor movement's survival on the line because Starmer's control freakery helping reform UK. Andrea Egan, the new left-wing General Secretary of Unison, one of the most powerful unions in labor politics, has claimed that the survival of the labor movement is on the line because of the mistakes being made by Keir Starmer. In an article for Tribune, she is particularly critical of the decision to block Andy Burnham from being a by-election candidate in Gorton and Denton. But she argues that this is just part of a wider problem and that a radical change in direction is needed from Downing Street. She says, "Today in Britain, the first far-right government in our history is a very real prospect. Nigel Farage in power would be the biggest triumph for the enemies of the working class since his idol Margaret Thatcher took office almost 5 decades ago, and could make the 1980s look like an easy ride. It would be a global victory for a billionaire-backed ethno-nationalist project represented by the administration of Donald Trump, whose contempt for democracy was so brutally demonstrated by the murder of intensive care nurse Alex Preddy by ICE agents. For every worker, active trade unionist, or anyone who wants to live in an open and democratic society, the political stakes of the coming months and years are potentially existential. We are staring down the barrel of a historically devastating offensive against our class. But from witnessing the recent behavior of Labour's ruling faction, you wouldn't know it. Spearheaded from Downing Street, this narrow Westminster grouping often gives the impression it would rather hand the country over to Farage and put the labor movement's survival on the line than consider any change in policy direction or lose the slightest control over the party machine." Egan says the reasons given by Labour for Burnham being blocked were an insult to the intelligence of anyone unfortunate enough to have read them. She says, "One, at least, was revealing: the idea that the risk of losing the Greater Manchester mayoralty to Reform UK was too great. In other words, this Labour government is so unpopular